Good. Hey, hi everybody, Claire Wasserman here, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book all about helping women earn more and live better. I think I've said it enough times that it's muscle memory, but if I forgot something, probably the join us at ladiesgetpaid.com would be important too. And so every Monday, or as many Mondays as I can, I try to host these job seeker support groups, because I know this is a time in our lives that can feel so scary, but it also can be one of such opportunity and growth. And we focus on different aspects each time we get together. The point is less to be webinar style and more like peer-to-peer story sharing, emotional support. Sometimes we do resume reviews. And today's going to be salary negotiation role plays. I will go into a framework and scripts and then divide us into groups. And then we'll come back together and share kind of what aspects of it felt uncomfortable or maybe felt good, and if anyone has certain negotiation situations that they're gearing up to, I'll do my best to walk you through. Even though everybody has a different situation, there's a universal structure to the way this goes. So I think today will be very helpful for all, no matter where you're at in your negotiation journey. But before I go into all of that, I am going to have Christina join us, because Christina has been coming to all of our sessions. And then she posted, I would say, bittersweet news for me, because her bittersweet news is that she got a job, which means she's graduating past these groups. But for anybody who does get work, come and announce it on LinkedIn and tag me, because I want you to come back and I want you to tell us what you learned and just words of wisdom. And I know that you are on a visa, and there's a number of women from other countries here. So Christina, I'm going to have you unmute, join me, pin to the first screen. There you are. If you would like to just share who you are and just like top level for the next like 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
Let's hope. Give us hope, Christina.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much, Claire. It's been such a journey, and you are such a big part of my success, I would say, because really the community is everything, as you said, and it played such a big part because I found like such an amazing people here, and also who supported me through my journey as well. Yeah, and Monday sessions were very helpful, and I was like, okay, I should join. So yeah, I'm originally from Ukraine, and I came to the US last July. I have a legal background and master's in law, but because of the industry, for me to continue this path, I would need to obtain another degree. Basically, it was not something what I was ready for, because I've been already working for 6 years. Yeah, and it just started the word of mouth. I first learned about Ladies Get Paid, then my friend joined some town hall with me, Monday sessions, and some of the tips which I learned: definitely be open for feedback, connect people without thinking, oh, maybe I'm not, like, don't be shy at all. And especially, yes, what you just said about sharing on LinkedIn, for sure. I was so shocked that a lot of people actually texted me after, which I didn't even talk to, maybe just chat a little bit. And everyone was so like open, hey, tell me more or something like this. So I was just surprised how people can be actually helpful, because a lot of people, even I found here at the community, afterwards, after some sessions, we connected on LinkedIn, and some of the people, we had a chat, and they just, I don't know, sent jobs my way. I was so shocked, really, because when I came, I didn't know anyone. And for me, it was a little bit like difficult, because during some job interviews, there were questions, oh, what about your visa? Will you require some assistance or something? Because in my case, I didn't need that, but still people were concerned. And it was like, I don't know, not a good feeling. And especially when you are seeing all these posts, oh, I got laid off, it didn't give any hope. But in the end of the day, even, I don't know, small help from some random person or another, actually, you know, how I got this job. There's on LinkedIn, when you're looking for a job, you can filter it posted during last, I don't know, 24 or 48 hours. I will tell you, So I applied like that for 4 jobs, and all 4 jobs actually came back to me during the 1 week. It never happened with me before, but it was such a, I don't know, coincidence or just a good tip, because I talked to some people who worked on LinkedIn and they also recommended me to do that. I mean, of course, you should be like, the job should match your resume, customized, tailoring, all that stuff. I guess everyone here knows that. But these posted during the last 24 or 48 hours definitely helped, because all of them came back to me and I was shocked, really. But yeah, just be open for any feedback you can get, any advice you can get, and don't be shy. So thank you so much.
And you got a great job. Will you share what the job is? And then will you drop your LinkedIn in the chat?
Yeah.
So where are you working now?
Right now I'm working at ICDLA. It's International Citizen Diplomacy of Los Angeles in LA. And it's been amazing, really. So many interesting people I've met already, and I'm just like still overwhelmed. And I just didn't expect to turn this way, because if to be honest, prior to the moment I got the job, I was so depressed. Oh, I will not find any this feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like,
how long
maybe I'm doing something wrong.
How long were you looking for work?
I will tell you, like around 6 months, maybe.
Okay.
Because in my case, I was waiting for paperwork, like work authorization documents. And then as soon as I got the documents, I basically started looking for a job.
Okay, great. So hopefully that makes those who are in the 6 month, and if you're beyond 6 months, that's okay too. I know lots of people who are beyond 6 months as well.
Yeah.
Christina, thank you so much. Will you come back still?
Thank you, Claire.
Okay. I'm going to have you just remove the pin. I'm going to hold on, pin myself so you can see my big head. Okay. Woo, there's my big head. So one thing I just want to say off of what Christina said, because this was a really valuable tip that she mentioned about when you get the job alert that it's been posted in the last 24, 48 hours to immediately apply. In order for everybody to feel not rushed, because I know that's going to make our heart palpitations are going to start when you hear that, please everybody have just a foundational cover letter and resume. I've done this in a former session with you all where we went through a job description, like an ideal job description line by line, and then pulled from there the keywords that reminded us of case studies in the past of things we've done that reflect those keywords. If you are applying for, let's say, 1 to 3 types of roles normally, okay, or maybe just one type of role, you should be able to have a really solid cover letter and resume that reflects it based off of a sample job description. There shouldn't be too much tweaking you need to do. And if you're spending like infinite amount of time tailoring per job that you apply to, you might be veering into perfectionism. We don't want that. And that's where Christina's point earlier of getting feedback, right? Like we need gut checks, we need perspectives from each other. But if you can do all that work up front with those foundational foundational cover letters and resumes, you're going to feel really confident in the moment when you see that job alert go up. You're like, all right, I did the work before where I deciphered a job description that was similar to this. Okay. Yes. All right. So now let us talk about job salary negotiation. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in just a second to show you the framework that I would love for us all to wrap our heads around. And then we'll go into a practice session where we'll do breakouts with 2 people. Each one person will play the hirer, one person will play the candidate, and then you'll swap. And it's not about in any way, shape, or form memorizing or perfectionism. It's really just about noticing at what points you feel resistance, actually, because I find that very interesting. And before I share my screen, I want to just say, first and foremost, they expect you to negotiate, okay? The first offer is literally just that, the first offer. Every single company, even if they say this is, quote, non-negotiable, there are things that are negotiable. And we'll talk about full compensation in a minute, because those are other benefits that bring you value, might not be monetary. Usually they are only prepared to go between 5 and 15% higher than their first offer. But point being, they are coming with a buffer. Okay. So by the fact that you negotiate, you are not jeopardizing this situation. Now, it all comes down to how you negotiate, of course. Okay. Especially for women, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a tightrope that we need to walk. We're expected to be very nice and accommodating. And so when we are assertive, it can easily be misinterpreted as aggressive. So there's certain things that we really need to be prepared for when we go into these negotiations. And I would say first and foremost, it's the creative problem-solving aspect of negotiating. That's what I love about this whole process, because I want to be clear, I didn't know I could negotiate my first salary or many salaries. It took me a while for somebody to point that out to me, okay? And I was deathly afraid of negotiating because I am really inclined to be a people pleaser. I don't like conflict. And guess what? That was the mistake. Negotiating does not have to feel like conflict. It does not have to be you versus me. It is about two sides who are, by the way, already on the same side, because if you're at the point of a negotiation, they are invested in you. They want this to work. You are trying to figure out with them in a collaborative way how you can basically get them, whatever their side is, their stance is, create a pathway to seeing how your side is still in their benefit. And if you consider yourself somebody who can problem solve, if you consider yourself creative and collaborative and empathetic, you can do this. You can do this. So let me share my screen. Oops, let me, hold on. Of course, I'm going to have to just give me a second. All right, so if I were to share this screen, let us see. Can you see this? So does it say pick 3 numbers? Is that, yes? Awesome. Okay. I'm like, we cannot be having morning sickness and technical issues. Not possible. All right. Although I don't know if I can see the chat. So let us, can't see the chat right now. So I'm just going to keep doing my thing and then I'll minimize maybe, and then maybe I can see this chat after. Okay, so the framework that I'd love us to go into are practice negotiation. And of course, you won't have done your market research, or maybe some of you have because you actually are going into a negotiation, but you need to have 3 numbers. If you're coming in with 1 number, you're going to probably leave money on the table. Okay, so the first number, and by the way, this is not random. This is based on market research that you did. I really urge you to do as much market research as possible. And if you can really root it in real people giving you real answers, so not just Glassdoor, because if you go in and you say a number and your boss goes, where'd you find it? And you say Glassdoor, trust me, they're going to say that's not relevant. Okay. So if you're going to feel way more confident if you have spoken to actual people about at least the ballpark of how much they make. And as you do your research, you are going to see, you know what, there is a ballpark. There's not a one size fits all, because within that ballpark, which is technically it's called a pay band, you are trying to make the case for why you deserve to be at the top of the pay band. Now let's assume that your company, they're going to counter with the bottom of the band or even below the band. So the conversation is going to probably go back and forth within that pay band. And that's why you need to be prepared with 3 numbers. I like to call it FU money as the top of the pay band. Okay. By the way, none of this is based off of what you currently make or what you made in your last salary. You know why? Think about how much you've grown. Okay. If you even go back to that original job description, okay, and you were to write a new job description based on what you actually did, you probably see massive changes, either responsibility changes or just personal changes. Plus, you might have been underpaid, okay? So even if they're going to be basing your next salary on what you currently make, I don't want you to do that. Again, but it's all about making the case for why. Next number, feeling good. Okay, this is the number you're probably going to end up with. So you really have to look at your budget and you have to be okay with that, with this number, all right? Is it the middle of the pay band? I don't know. That's a personal question for you based off of your financial goals. Same thing with this walk away number, right? This bottom line. Is it the bottom of the pay band for you? Maybe not. Maybe you need to be making more than the bottom of the pay band. So just don't go off of, like, use market research as benchmarks that you then can filter what your personal financial goals and situation are. Your goal here is, of course, to make the case for the highest possible number. Other things I want you to be prepared for before you go into the salary negotiation. By the way, if you would right now to screenshot each of these things, go ahead and do that, because when you do your breakouts, you might want to have them to refer back to. I'm totally fine with you taking screenshots. Also, I think when I send you this virtual summit that we did the other week with the salary negotiation training, that's what these slides are from. I think you'll be getting these anyway, but I would go ahead and just as a reminder for our breakout. Then we're going to talk about full compensation here, right? Because you're not just getting a number, you're getting a package, salary being a piece of the package. Here are some examples. One thing I would urge you, do not go off of what they say they can give you, okay? Do not go off of what has been done before. I just firmly believe that you can get whatever you make the most compelling case for. So of course you can start, they'll present you with, here's some things we do for you. Great. I want you to have other things you ask for, because the goal in all of this is to just get them to budge on something. They're going to feel really proud of yourself if you're able to get something that is beyond what has been offered. And here are some examples. Again, it's very personal, so really just think for yourself. What would bring you value either day to day or help position you to reach larger goals, right? Whether it's getting you to the next position or the next job, right? Squeeze the lemon, okay? Squeeze the lemon as best as you can. And by the way, if you're thinking to already, Claire, if they can't give me more salary, then how can they afford to pay for me to go to a conference? Different budgets, even signing bonus. I know many people who were not able to raise their base salary, but they did increase their signing bonus so much so that it did match the annual that they were actually asking for. So in total, their full compensation package ended up being quite large. You're going to see that though. Sometimes one person could give you a lower salary, but the financial benefits actually of the full compensation end up exceeding. So this is why you really have to do this reflection work beforehand of who you are and what brings you value and what your goals are, so that you're not caught in the moment having to make a snap decision. And if you ever feel rushed, you have every right to just say, this is a lot of information. It's a family decision. I'd like to request some time to give you a definitive answer. What would be appropriate? You can always slow it down. So then what you're going to do, right? We've got our three numbers here. You've got some full compensation you've done research on. I call it the hierarchy of needs here, okay? So you're not going to get every piece of full comp, obviously, and you're not going to bring every piece of full comp up. But what you're doing here is having a list prepared, I would say maybe 3 to 5 in order of preference in your back pocket, so that whatever they say, you can go, let's say they're saying, okay, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z things. And you don't hear them say, all right, you look at your list. Okay, they're not saying these other things. All right, now I'm going to bring this up. It's your ability to always pull. I just think of it as cards. Like you're just pulling more cards from behind you in this exchange of conversation, right? So it's basically determining what you're willing to make a concession on in exchange for something else that you want. And by the way, being as specific as possible is important. So not just saying this abstract career development, but if you can really have a sense of what that actually means, what the conference is, the benefit to the business, right? How this is going to make you a better employee, or that you'll share what you've learned with your team, or if it's a pretty big ask, let's say they don't really right now do flexibility, work from home, most companies are, but let's say they're not. What would be a smaller version of that? Call it the beta version, okay? And I want to just go a little bit quicker than I've been going right now, because this is not technically a salary negotiation webinar. So here's what a general framework of a salary negotiation looks like. You can tell me if you've seen something crazier than this, but I would say if you have mapped out your all potential answers to these questions, you're in good shape. They ask for your current salary. I'll give you the scripts in just a second. But if you can yeah, do take a screenshot of this, because this is going to be the back and forth that we do in the breakout. One thing that I'm not going to be giving you the script for today, because we don't have, it's just not, I think it's not useful, is the more equity conversation. I can share with you what that is, but we want to keep moving here. And they lowball you. They ask what you want to make. They lowball you. They respond, they don't have enough budget. They just won't budge. It's not negotiable. So you are preparing for them to basically throw roadblocks in your way at every step along the way. Your job, again, and put a creative problem solving hat on here, your job is to keep the conversation going. It's to never take a no, basically. Just look at a no as a not yet, and to find new angle to present them that is compelling. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. You also can bring in notes. I actually coached somebody who half jokingly said to her that I'd once worked with somebody who created a presentation. She goes, oh yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Literally made a presentation with footnotes of her market research, took herself seriously, and also saw this as an opportunity to actually look really good. So what's your current salary? Many states now, there's a thing called a salary history ban, okay? It's not legal to ask you how much you currently make. You know why? Exactly what I said earlier, of if you were underpaid to begin with, that gap is going to compound over time. So that's why I don't want you to be basing how much you ask off of what you currently make. It's off of what the market research is for the job that you are actually doing. But here are some options for how to respond, because there is research that shows that when women evade these questions, we're looked at as not trustworthy, because fuck everybody. You might say the answer, but then pivot to why it's not relevant. Feel free to take screenshots. What are you looking to make? So chances are they're not going to ask this question, but I wanted to just mention it anyway. What are you looking to make? I see the distinction of the response that I would give really depends on the context. It depends when it was asked. For our case right now, since we're going to be doing a breakout of in an actual negotiation, they've already extended an offer. Okay. So if they've extended an offer, I would say the research that you did and why you're asking for top dollar. If it's during the interview process, AKA you have not gotten the offer yet, don't say the number. Something I really noticed, and you can see different options here for ways in which to respond. I quasi-transparency in the, I'm hesitant to lose the opportunity on the off chance I quote something too high, right? So that's that little bit of deference, right? Like you're demonstrating that you're open, you know, that you understand there's constraints. The research I did was around, and you do a high number that anchors high. You're going to have a better negotiation if you say the high number first, but you've contextualized it with it's research, right? You're not like straight up asking for it. You're just saying, this is the research I did. Is that close to what you budgeted? Something else I want you to notice here in the script. So I found in my research that a top performer makes approximately X. And since I hope I've proven myself to be one, I expect something close. Here's the part I want you to pay attention to, and please use this language. I know that you're a company that values pay equity and invest in their employees, right? Even if you don't, hold them accountable to that standard. Saying things like, I know that you care about paying your employees fairly, so I'm confident that we're going to be able to reach something that's at least close to this number that I found in my research, right? So it's not this either or, either you say a big number and you're like, F you, give it to me. No, or what's your number? And you never say anything and you let them run the whole negotiation. I think there is an absolute way to do this where you are asserting your value while also demonstrating that openness to the conversation. But their response is, we can only afford something super low. Or maybe they don't even ask you what you want to make. They just say, this number is super low. Oh. First, you're going to probably find yourself feeling deflated or disappointed or panicked, or maybe not. I'm ascribing to you what I might feel, where you're like, oh no, this is going to be hard. Just take a deep breath and just think about how you are practicing today for a future big negotiation. That has been very helpful in my life. In any situation I'm in that's hard, I know that there's going to be life situations later on that are going to be even harder, even more high stakes. Okay. So you're like, all right, yes, I'm practicing for the future. That's a great starting point. Feel free to lie a little bit there. Just demonstrate that empathy. Okay. However, based on my research, please keep coming back to your research. That's why I underscored in the beginning the importance of doing a ton of research and talking to real people so you truly can be confident in that. I know you're a company that values their employees and seeks to pay them fairly, right? We've established that. What can we figure out together? This is that collaborative language that I mentioned earlier that's so important to get me in the ballpark of what I'm asking for. Okay, ballpark. There's a lot of signaling here that's demonstrating that you are not hardlining, that you're open to negotiation. Okay. Now, if you want to, at this point, throw in an example of your value as a top performer. And by the way, after the screen share, I'm going to just tell you a little case study of a woman I coached. The opening, and I don't want to use argument because that makes it sound confrontational, but her sort of like opening case she made, where she really was reminding them of her specific value, how she specifically impacted the business bottom line. It's not bad to throw in an example here. I've saved, knowing that I have done the job, or your part of the responsibility is going to be doing the job of 2 people here, and I'm really saving this company money. I'm hoping that a little more money for me, that would even things out, whatever, you'll figure out the words, but have pieces of evidence ready to go. Our budget is really tight right now. Again, they're going to throw obstacles. No, can't do it. Okay. Notice I keep starting with this empathetic first line. I definitely understand budgeting issues and I want to make this work, right? If you're not able to get close to my original number, which I love that reminding them of, this is the number I'm coming in with. How about, and that's that second number, remember in the 3 numbers, F you, feeling good, and walk away. I'm confident that the value I bring and the impact I can have will exceed the increase I'm asking for. Do you want to use this exact language? Whatever, like you're going to tailor it to make it sound like you, but I chose each of these sentences for a specific reason. And it is just a constant reminder that this is actually not about necessarily fairness, even though I like holding them accountable to the idea of fairness. It's really about you understanding that you are making the company money and that an investment in you is an investment in them. And if you can keep bringing that up in so many words, that just makes this conversation way more about, I don't know, it becomes a business collaboration instead of this like ethical thing that I think a lot of us like feel like we need to be personal, and it's really business. Can't budge. Sorry, can't budge. All right. So now I want you to use words of, okay, totally hear you. I appreciate you looking into this, even though they didn't. Use the word creative. This is when I'd love for you to talk about accelerated timetable for promotion, signing bonuses. Notice I'm not yet at full compensation. These technically are pieces of full compensation, like a signing bonus, but I don't want you to jump so quickly to non-monetary things first. I want us to really try to squeeze the financials as much as we can here. So do ask them about, is there a year-end bonus? Did it come out of a different pot of money? By the way, if we're going to talk about accelerated timetable, I want you to say with benchmarks, of course. Okay. You don't have to determine exactly what those are at this negotiation, but it is extremely important that this is not some abstract, oh, we'll just talk about it later. You have a sense of timing and some milestones. Okay. Using words like, I can totally be flexible on this, on how we approach this. And then this last sentence is my kicker. I love it. By the way, your guidance is super appreciated. I'm curious, if you were in my position, what would you do? So remember, we're going from this confrontation, this idea of negotiation as confrontation, to a collaborative, creative problem-solving exercise. And a great way to do that is to really imagine them like a mentor. Even if this is scaring you, this doesn't feel good, like all that stuff, just do your best to co-opt them into becoming your guide in this. And here's the thing, they have to negotiate their salary too. They've been in your position before, and they're going to be in your position again. Humanize them as best as you can. So whether or not you say this exact words at this exact point, whatever, you'll figure out the cadence and whatever, like that's best for you. But I really like turning it on its head and actually asking them to help you. in this. Nope, that was the final number. They've just never budged. And again, remember, you're doing this even if you're feeling deflated because they're saying no, you actually are doing an extremely good job because you can't control the situation, right? Like it is what it is, but you are strengthening your negotiation muscle that is going to serve you extremely well in your life, not even just for the next negotiation, just in your life. Thanks for working with me to find a solution that's fair for everyone. If that's starting to feel like silly to say stuff that's just not, again, my point here is every sentence or opening is like something that's kind. I'm going to talk about full compensation. All right, given that you're not able to get close to my original number, again, it's reminding them of where you started. I'd like to talk about full compensation more specifically. I want you to say the top 3 things that you want and benefits to the business. Then we do have to be quiet. I do want to be clear in all of this. I'm a huge fan of saying a lot and then also being very quiet. So talk about what you want, the benefits to the business, your excitement for the job, and then we be quiet. And that's it. Of course, we can talk through different ways. If y'all want to try to quiz me here on crazy things that you might have heard, but I really did my best to walk us through every way that they could say no and ways that you can continue to move the conversation forward. Let me just, have you all taken the screenshots that you needed? Because I'm going to potentially not share in just a second so I can see the chat. Also, you probably can see here too. Maybe. Yeah. So can you all see my notes screen here? Maybe. Yeah. Okay. This is screenshots from another presentation that I did, which I think we've all understood. I think something that's important is to not ask if anything's negotiable, to assume that it is. Just trust that if you've expressed sort of the empathy and the problem solving attitude and that you're rooting things in market research, like you don't need to now be like, is it negotiable? Because if you ask questions that could get a no, then crap. Let's ask questions that are as open-ended as possible. Let me go ahead and stop my screen share if I can figure out. There we go. All right. Stop the share. Okay, let's see. Because we are going to do our breakouts. But of course, this is not working. Oh, there we go. Okay. It looks like there were a lot of questions, or at least things posted in the chat. So let me just take a look before we go into the breakouts. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of questions that people were responding to each other, which is very cool. Let's separate session on equity topic. In the follow-up email that I sent everybody with the link to the hired tech summit we did last week, the slide about equity, it's basically just a bunch of questions that I want you to make sure to ask them. So before you just say yes, it's really understanding like how many investors do they have? Are they planning on having an IPO? Like what's their exit strategy? Chances are you will never see money from equity. That being said, the last company I worked for before Ladies Get Paid, I did see money, quite a bit of money, but that's because I was the second employee. They had one investor. I knew what their timetable and exit strategy was. Like I went in with eyes wide ass open. That's why I said yes to a lower salary, higher equity. But that is most people's scenarios, especially if you go work for like a huge company. Let's say you're working for Uber. They're not going to pay you first. If they were to pay it, they're going to pay off their initial investors first. So it's really rare that you're going to see anything from a startup that you work for, unless it is your own. The last thing I'll just answer here is Helena's question. How do you ask real people questions about their salary? So it's going to be in the presentation that you download in the follow-up email. You go tell them the research that you did and you ask them if you're off base and you tell them it's going to help us all make more money. You tie it to a higher purpose. Please ask white men this stuff. They're the ones who are making the most. You can literally email people or message people on LinkedIn that you don't know. Just they need to have the same context as you. Be clear about that. If you are about to go work for a small company and you're asking somebody who works for a huge company, compensation is contextual, largely based on size of company, location of company. And the people who are going to make the most are the ones who are the most desirable. I call it poachability. So if you have a certain skill set that's really hot right now, like you're going to end up making more money. This is why you also see two people who maybe, quote, do the same thing in a job, but get paid different amounts because one, maybe he brought in vendors or clients or has a master's degree, right? This is why when we ask questions about compensation, try to get that context as well. Let us do, I know there's a bunch of questions here, but I did promise an interactive session. So we're going to go into two breakouts, and I would love, hopefully you all took the screenshots, go back to this, the map out the frame, map out your answers. And I would love, and this is not like a perfect, it's actually the first time I've done breakouts for salary negotiation. So you're all my guinea pigs here in case this is not the clearest. Also, I go back to the fact that I am on a sleeping medication now to keep me from morning sickness. So wish us all luck here. The point being is in your breakout, and I think let's give ourselves maybe about 10, 12 minutes or so. If you can relatively quickly go through at least and you guys can figure out together. Actually, let me go ahead and just share my screen real quick so you can see the map out your answers. Okay. All right, y'all see this? This is the screenshot I'd like you to take. Have in mind 3 numbers. All right. So if you want to right now go off of what you're currently making, go for it, even though I was saying don't actually do that in the real one, but just pick the 3 numbers. Let's say you want to make 275 ultimately, but you'd settle for 250. Lowest you'd go is 242, whatever. Pick your number. Have that in mind so that when the other side, whoever in that, you guys will decide who's who, and then you'll swap. Just go through the scripts here. And if you want to start with, we can only afford, maybe let's begin with, what are you looking to make? Or you could begin with, here's the number, and it's very low, right? And then go through each of these things where every time you are, and you can recite this out loud if you want, or if you don't want to say the actual words and would rather just talk it out with your partner about how you feel about this, go for it. Because again, we're not here to like practice makes perfect. It's just familiarity with pushing it. That's what I want us to get really comfortable with, is to not taking no for an answer or just not accepting what we're given. That's the ultimate here. All right. Do we feel good? Hopefully I've been relatively clear in my, and I see Stacy. Did you hear my update, Stacy, in the beginning? Hold on. Stop the share. Hold on.
I couldn't dial in fast enough.
I would love any feedback that y'all have if you want to connect with me after of how to do salary negotiation role play to make it more helpful. I'm going to be releasing, so we have a salary negotiation webinar, but I have completely redone it, and it's much longer and more in depth and has way more scripts than what I shared with you all. That was really just the rudimentary framework, but I want us to be prepared for anything and everything in any way, shape, or form. So stay tuned for that. And so there's more than what we did today, but if there were certain things that you felt like could have been more helpful or structured differently, then, please do connect with me. Best place to do that is probably LinkedIn. Something that if you've been coming to my sessions beforehand, you've noticed that in the follow-up email that I send you, I invite you to a post that I'm going to make on LinkedIn recapping some key learnings from today. I would love for you to comment on it as a way of getting engagement to my followers. I have almost 9,000 followers. So it would be smart for you to comment on my LinkedIn. And it's also a way for you guys to have visibility to each other. And this is us getting into the habit of not looking at LinkedIn as self-promotional, but as ways of providing value to each other. So by sharing something that you learned in this session, that's going to help another person on LinkedIn and also get your name out there. So I see Britt, it got uncomfortable after about the second time of going back and forth. Like I was going to be labeled as difficult. And I see somebody who did a thumbs up. Do you feel, so here's the sort of existential question here. Do we feel like it's just inevitable because we are socialized as women to be accommodating and nice and all of those things? Do you think a negotiation will always feel uncomfortable? Or are there certain things we can say and do that will make us feel comfortable, like more comfortable? Is it like a thing we just have to accept, or can we make it better? It's actually a question. I don't know, Britt, if you want to unmute and respond to that, or if even just practice is going to make you feel comfortable.
I think practicing. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. So I think practicing will make it a better experience. I think just it's like pulling the band-aid. Just do what you want. And I think a platform like this will make it much a better everyday thing. So when you're having conversations, even with recruiters or anybody, or even if you have a small business or startup, you're able to just say what you want for your worth across the board.
Yes, yes. And that's a piece of homework I would encourage everyone to do, is to find low stake ways to negotiate that have nothing to do with money. Whether you change your flight and you want a discount. When I go, we're going to Italy in 2 weeks. I was so excited about it. And then I got pregnant. You better believe I'm going up to that counter and asking them to give me first class ticket. I'll be like, I'm with twins. That's going to be a negotiation. Chances are they say no to me, but what happens if they say yes? That's an example of like low stakes. So just anything in life, or calling up your cell phone provider, give me a discount. Like it's just exercising that muscle of not accepting what you're given. And then, yeah, Tara said,
I have a question, Claire. I'm looking for entry-level jobs in recruiting, and I have a fear that if I negotiate, they may not come back. And is the right time for my experience level to negotiate?
I think every single person should always negotiate. But here's the thing, it has to be rooted in the market research. So if what they're offering you is the market research, I still want everyone to negotiate the highest end of the market research and or full comp on top of it. So you're not just like negotiating for the random sake of it, like it does need to be rooted in real numbers. If you feel like you're at a disadvantage because you are new to the industry, you're really going to have to make the case that your skills are transferable. And that the learning curve is going to be minimal. This is a topic I've spoken at length in other sessions before. So if y'all want to go on our YouTube channel, we have a playlist that has job seeker support group. I'll link to it in the follow-up email because I could go on and on about it and I don't want to.
Can you please share the link in through email?
Yes, yeah. I'll put the link to all of the other sessions that we've recorded. Because it's not a question to me of whether or not you negotiate, it's just how you do it and what you're saying. And
suppose there is a delicacy because nowadays it is very tough time to get an interview call, and on the top of it, if I negotiate, there are chances to slip off the offer. So my question is, if they ask what are your expectations from their point, so do I need to tell the range from this to the high, from minimum to the highest level?
No, I think in the first, if you're just trying to get in the door, I would really try to avoid saying the amount that you're looking for. And you can say, I don't want to lose this opportunity, but then you can say the research that I did, I saw it was between X and Y, but I need to learn more about the position. Like your goal is, to your point, of you just need them to say yes to the next level, whatever that is. I think the negotiation is very different when you're just trying to get in the door than it is when you're trying to close it. So almost, I know I'm telling you maybe some contradictory things, right? But again, it's all context. That being said, you don't want to waste your own time, right? If this situation is going to be paying you way below you're able to say yes to, then do we want you to be going down this path? Maybe not. However,
No.
the strongest negotiators are the ones who are really able and willing to walk away. And that's just the truth of it, which is why in Ladies Get Paid, when you go to our website, go to courses, we have a lot of personal finance, because I think it's very irresponsible for us to teach salary negotiation and not teach personal finance. We need to have our savings. We need to be developing side hustles, because I want us all to go in there and be able to quote that high number. But I know the reality for a lot of people is they can't do that because they are afraid that the person will walk away. So I really hear you. By the way, I'm loving Judy saying my first negotiation I recall was at age 7 over a hair clip in New York with a street vendor. Parents, aunts, and grandparents always haggled or negotiated. So I figured, why not me? He knocked 50% off. So I felt good. I think a great LinkedIn post out of this for everybody, because just to full circle it back to Christina in the beginning, when she shared her tips for getting a job, and it does require us to be more visible on LinkedIn. Why don't we share a time that we either negotiated or didn't negotiate? Doesn't have to do with salary, right? I love this story of Judy. And or maybe pose a question to people on LinkedIn of what are unexpected things that you can negotiate and who has had success. That's it's just a really, I just want us to all start flexing the muscle of not accepting the status quo. But as you've seen in this entire conversation, there's a lot of context to that. And there's a lot of pre-work, a lot of evidence you need to make. Again, it's not just black and white, give me the FU money or no. So I hope you've seen in the way that I've guided you in this, that you're pulling in a lot of different skill sets here. First and foremost, being collaborative and creative, and ask questions. Ask them why. How did you come up with this salary? What is your compensation philosophy? How do you prevent what's called pay compression? So let's say you end up, and I know I'm going over time, this is why we do these almost every Monday, so we can continue the conversation. So I'll shut up in a second, but one great thing to push back on, if they are quoting you a very low number and they will not budge, and you've been able to demonstrate to them that is below market rate, ask them if you expect to be here for a long time, how will you ever catch up? And that's what's called pay compression. Your gap, you start at a low rate and every year they only give you incremental merit increases, you will always be underpaid. And this is what breeds resentment. This is why people leave companies, which is expensive for companies. This is also why you see people who've worked at a company for a long time being paid less than somebody who comes in more recently. You can ask them this. So if you're not sure what to say, rephrase this statement you wanted to make, rephrase it as an open-ended question to get more information from them. How do they plan on handling pay compression? But I'm going to I know we've got people raising hands. I love you all so very much. I am going to just say thank you for being here. I'll do my best to get you the follow-up email today. I will do my best. If it does not come today, it will come tomorrow. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram at Claire Gets Paid. Also go to the Ladies Get Paid LinkedIn page. I host almost every day free sessions with coaches. So we have a really good coach today at noon Pacific time who's going to be talking about unearthing your purpose and leveraging that to make more money. But keep an eye out for your inbox, because that's going to be a link to watching that tech summit that I mentioned that has the full 75-minute a full 75-minute salary negotiation with, I'll attach the scripts that I shared today. And then also, if you're interested in private coaching with me, I have capacity for a couple more clients. You can check me out at clairewasserman.com. I'll also include that in the email. But best thing you can do is click on the post that I make on LinkedIn that's going to connect to the recording and some key takeaways, and to share either things you learned or keep asking questions. Let's do the dialogue publicly, because that's a way, again, we can all get exposure for ourselves. Super appreciate you all being here, especially in wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but I did it with my box of Ritz crackers. Yay. Thank you guys. Really appreciate you all. And stay tuned for the next one. Now go get paid. Bye.